Welcome to the Educational Currency. I'm Robert Namoski.
I'm Chris Kalodikis.
And, well, we're starting this podcast, me and Chris, from our conversations at school in the playground. And we're interested in topics, interested in education, and things that we would like to learn. We'll discuss it amongst ourselves and bring guests in so they can inform us, not just you guys, us as well.
Okay, and so really we're hoping to share this journey with you. A big part of education is that we're ongoing learners. We're always out there trying to grow, trying to learn, and obviously trying to better ourselves, our lives, and share that with everyone. And so we're hoping to share that journey with you as we go on with this. So let's start off. Rob, who are you?
Okay, as I mentioned, my name is Robert Namoski. I've been running a tuition centre for 30 years and a martial arts centre for 20 years. I specialise in teaching in mathematics at the tuition centre, but we have other specialist teachers as well. And also at Ultimate Jiu-Jitsu, I'm the head instructor of the whole organisation. We've got 5 locations around Sydney, and we've got locations as well overseas. So I'll be bringing in that part of the education perspective into the podcast. And my good friend Chris comes from yourself.
I guess I'm more of the traditional kind of teacher. I've been a teacher now nearly 20 years, went to university, and then I've worked in a variety of different high schools in my time. My areas are that in TAS and specifically in computing, but I've also experienced a lot of growth in the area of vocational education and training too, which I think is paramount to young people and giving them alternative pathways moving forward. Within my 20 years of teaching, for nearly 10 of those now, I've been a leader of wellbeing in schools, working with young people and supporting them in a variety of different areas, guiding them in their development as they move throughout their high school experience. Outside of the school, if I was going to go more the less traditional styles, I'm also a YouTube educator. I have my own micro business, Maximum Education, where I put out educational resources that are focused on supporting students in studying for HSC subjects, particularly in the areas of computing. And then from that, I've tried to build upon that with developing online platforms in education as a part of that business too. This has led to a variety of opportunities for myself. This year, I'm going to be a published author as a part of the new Enterprise Computing textbook, which I'm very excited about. But then my other big area and goal for this year is obviously developing this podcast here with Rob as well. I hope to be bringing a lot of my journey along across in this podcast too. I'm working towards my higher levels of accreditation as a part of the highly accomplished professional standards with NESA. But a key aspect of why I want to do this too is networking. I love working with other teachers. Sometimes in teaching we feel like we're alone, and I think it's very important that we do network with each other and share ideas. And really we want to encourage that passion, don't we, with our peers. And a big part of my passion, where I draw energy from, is from my students. And I want to acknowledge that, they're my source of inspiration and my source of energy. The harder they push me, the more I grow. And I think that's an energy that needs to be passed. And that's something we want to be getting out of this podcast, eh?
Oh, absolutely. We're here to develop ourselves and in turn bring that on to our students. From myself, I've been very fortunate to do the jobs that I've been doing here at the coaching college, and the actual students become my close friends. And watching them progress through their careers, seeing the people that they become as the years roll on, that's really quite rewarding to know that, okay, I have had a little bit of an impact in their lives to actually almost guide them in a way, or just clear things up in a way, which opens up to our first topic on mentoring.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge that we are mentors, and whether we want to be viewed that as not, they learn from the way we behave.
Absolutely. And what I find outside of the school environment, mentoring can be different things. I know there's other people that have spoken on YouTube about mentoring, and they really build that super close relationship where they have that one-on-one with the student or the person they're mentoring. But in our case, it's more about clearing things up for the student to let them make the choices that they want to make. So with myself in here, it's engaging the student in conversation. And what I find is slowly getting them to talk and being really able to listen. That's the hard part, is really closely listening to what they are saying and making sure that the conversation is coming from them, Not, for example, my dad said this would be good, my cousin did this, and that would be great. No, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? And these are hard conversations to have, because at such a young age, even from a year 10 kid picking his subject selections that'll go on to the HSC, or the hardest thing I find is not actually getting the students to high marks. Okay, what do you want to do now? Oh, give me your university preferences. And usually what I like to see is usually that one sort of pattern. If you're doing business, let's do all the business preferences. If you want to get into medicine, let's do all the medicine preferences. And this is where they need to decide for themselves, and slowly the conversation I try to strive to achieve with my students is for them at the end of that to be able to do that, which is one of the hardest things that I've had to do in my life, and I've had to learn slowly year after year. And this is what we're coming towards.
That's right. You know, that's what we're hoping to be going, sharing of ideas and that ongoing learning pattern, which kind of brings us to, that is our mission, you know, and really explaining our selection of our name of educational currency. In the aspect of when we talk about currency in workplaces, we're talking about keeping up to date, the sharing of ideas that keeps us up to date. But also with education too, and what we're talking about currency as the exchange of something valuable as well. Sharing our ideas, ways we can grow and become better education, and also hopefully better live our lives and, you know, spread that amongst people.
Oh, absolutely. The main thing is, okay, we're educators, but we're educating you to a certain subject, but also, you know, how to live a better life as well. This is what education is. Education isn't, here's a topic, get a good mark. No, in the process of that, how have you grown as a person? Specifically as a student, but then more importantly as a teacher. Because if you don't grow as a teacher, you become stale, and this is what we want to avoid.
That's it, and that's what it's about too. Yeah. We want to feel like teachers out there, that you feel supported, but also if you're someone thinking about getting into education, whether it be in the traditional sense or going into more coaching sense, teaching and mentoring, other aspects, that we can help support that transition to and really show you what a great industry the education industry is, eh?
Oh, absolutely. It is one of the most rewarding jobs you can possibly do. And like we said before, we will be bringing in guests into our podcast that are very experienced at what they do to help guide us and you guys listening on our journey.
Okay, an opportunity for us all to learn, to grow, and, you know, share this journey together.
Oh, so absolutely. So with our first topic on mentoring, so you've had quite an experience with that, especially being a year coordinator. You've had students from year 7, year 8, year 9, and now especially year 12. Okay, from a year 7 perspective, a student walking into a school, it's their first time at high school. What advice would you give, say, to the parent at home?
Look, they're going to be nervous when you're starting in year 7, and obviously if it's your first child going there, it really is sometimes that transition of the big fish from a little pond over to the little fish in the big pond. And so there's a variety of contexts. How will the school look after my child? What will they need to do with the variety of different subjects? It can all be very overwhelming. So the first thing I would say as my recommendation is calm. Take it easy, take it calm. The school will support you, okay? They'll read all the documentation that comes out. Be reassuring to your child that, you know, there is support mechanisms in place within the school. And if you're ever uncertain about something, go see the appropriate person, your homeroom teacher, your subject teacher, the year coordinator. There's always someone you can contact in order to support that. But really, you know who to contact within those schools if you're ever unsure. There is also that little bit of the element too that you have to let your child be free when they're going to high school as well. They're approaching those teenage years. They need to feel like that they are growing in their own independence too, which is kind of how high school is structured. They've got to know their timetable. They need to know where they need to be. And they appreciate that freedom too. So the nerves are all fair to have, but have faith in the school, I guess would be my message.
Yeah, I know. Being a parent now, having a daughter going into year 7, it is nerve-wracking. Even though I've been an educator for years, it's different when it's your child. Yeah. So I myself have had to pull back a bit, listen to the school. Okay, I'm going to have to let her go. Okay, there's certain things that are different now in high school that I'm just not going to have the control over that I had in primary school. And as a parent, it is nerve-wracking. What school to send your kid to, etc., etc. So from a mentoring perspective, I'd say with the students I've met in year 7, it's that question of, well, you're a little bit older now. This is what we expect from you. Are there any problems in doing that? For example, weekly homework that needs to get done. Can we start that off nice and slow? Can you give me 10, 15 minutes a day of maths? Do that 4 days a week. Give me a little bit on the weekend. Then we can build from that. I think from what I've seen, it's installing it into the student first, giving that motivation for the student to be able to actually do that, and then the parent's behavior can accelerate that. And this is what I found to be most successful. If we can just engage the students first into what we want them to do, and then the parents on board just really accelerates their learning to another level. And from what I found, once I can get those two things aligned, everything just falls into place nicely.
Yeah, it is. It's like a triangle, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The student is supported by the teachers and the parents, okay? All work in conjunction with each other and obviously having faith with each other. And from that context of mentoring, it's a big responsibility because you kind of see that balance. And obviously many of your parents out there, sometimes there's things you can't work with your child as the parent, or they're not going to listen to you in that context. And that's where you need the teacher. But teachers are not parents. And obviously we need their support in areas there too. So it's a massive responsibility in supporting children through these years. And teenagers are seeking guidance. It's obviously a very confusing and exciting time of life.
So coming in with teenagers, now you currently have the year 12s.
Yeah.
So we've just jumped 6 more years now, from year 7 to year 12. So for yourself, stepping into year 12 now as a mentor, what's your biggest challenge?
Look, there is a lot on kind of that you think about in the year that's coming ahead. Like, firstly, it's an honour to have these students as they're about to embark on their, the real world really once they leave the school. So there's a lot you're thinking about. Obviously, there's the HSC. Marks, what they're all thinking about. They're wondering, what am I going to do? What marks do I need to get to that level? So you've got to guide them in that path. What pathway are you going to take? Is there only one way? Are there alternatives? And as I said, I've got a history in vocational education as well. Yeah. So the HSC isn't the end of the world. There are many ways they can get that. So there's that aspect. From that aspect, there is the well-being aspect. They're nervous. They're working extremely hard. It's affecting their social behaviour. It's potentially affecting their sleep. And sleep is a whole category we'll go over.
Absolutely. That'll be a whole topic. It's an
absolute foundation. But it is affecting their social lives. They, some of them need to work. Many of them need to work. So they do have a lot going on outside. It's affecting their relationships at home. Whether it be like they're feeling pressure or they need to, they want to make their parents happy with what they're doing. So it's such a multi-layered level going into year 12.
Well, that's where the mentoring comes into play. So as these issues come up, with a good conversation, we can see it. And then we can slowly guide them through it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest conversations I've had in here was, okay, what's your structure of your week like? What are we doing this week? What's your week been like? Okay, now, where have you allocated yourself study times? Where have you allocated yourself relaxing times? Where do you work? What do you do recreationally outside of studying? These things all need to be balanced. And as a mentor, it is not so much our job, but our responsibility to make sure that there isn't something that's tipping the scale. For example, over sporting commitments. Okay, this is year 12. You have that one shot to actually get this mark for the HSC. If you're playing a sport so much, that's great, but are you on a contract? Will this sport be your future? This is the one challenge I found in here. So first, just getting those small micro steps ready to actually give us then that mark for the HSC. So with with myself, I try and engage them in that conversation, and through that conversation, see what their lives are like.
Yeah. And with those conversations too, they can be very awkward sometimes, because sometimes it's what they want to be doing. They want to be playing sport. They want to be working and making money. But at certain times of life, such as in year 12, like, you do want them to be prioritizing their study if that is the way they are going, or if they're studying a trade, that they are prioritizing their work in that aspect. And so, the hard conversation sometimes, whether it be as a teacher or as a parent, okay, that this is the time, now is a chance to make that opportunity. And getting that across, and from that, saying it in a context that you're saying because you want the young person to achieve their potential. What is that potential? Because that's what we're trying to draw out of them. And that's why we need them to see what is ultimately your goal, and then what do you need to do to get there? Which of these activities, the sport, the work, the study, will allow you to achieve that goal. And then it's almost like you've already alluded to with setting up that study plan, that timetable, and having balance. Because also in that context too, it can't all be one, and it can't all just be study and there's no extracurricular, there's no seeing your friends, there's no time to do work. No, that's impossible. It's balance.
And that'll be a topic as well, timetable.
That's a long one.
We're slowly bringing in the topics that we will be presenting just for our first podcast and our conversation. Yeah. But then moving on with that, mentoring isn't always making you feel nice. Has to give you the hard truth at that point in time with what has happened. You can't mentor someone just to butter them up and send them on their way happy. Sometimes giving them the truth at that point in time will let them make better choices and decisions. It's not about, for example, just, okay, something's happened, they haven't really put the effort in, the trial comes along, HSC, okay, we're getting ready for the HSC, not for your trial. The trial, this and this has happened, you've still got the time frame left to actually prepare for your HSC. And I've had students come in like that, where, okay, then the stress becomes less because you realize, okay, I still have a shot at what I need to do. But, and mentoring requires that. It does require some hard truth sometimes, where, and I found that you treat them like young adults, they behave like young adults. If you treat them as kids, they'll behave as kids, especially in that transitional phase from actually not adult yet, but not quite a kid, which is where they fall into our hands.
Well, that's right. And what we'd be trying to do there as well is, when you said with the trial and actually getting their marks, fostering that resilience within them, that they got to bounce back, because that's not just a skill when in the educational system, that's a life skill. You know, to bounce back when you kind of don't get the outcome that you want. And what do I need to do then? You didn't get the mark you want. Where were those weak points? How do you identify them? What would you say to your students?
I would say I would like them to think of, what do you want to do? This is the most important thing. Okay, I didn't get the mark I want. Great. Okay, what is it that you want to do? And I always tell them the same thing. Okay, regardless of the mark, you can pick any career you want, but next year you will begin to study. There's the word begin. So everything in the HSC or your ATAR is just an indication where you will begin your studies. So the world's your oyster. What do you want to do? And this is the hardest question. This is the hardest question, where, if I get this mark, I can't get into this. No, you can get into any career you want, but now you will have to begin to study that career. And I've had students in the past go from 70 TER to barrister, criminal barrister. Makes no difference. Makes no difference, your ATAR. The most important thing is, what do you want to do, and how motivated are you to do it? And once you get out of the high school environment, well, let's see what happens. And this is our biggest goal. As teachers.
Of course, you know, and letting them know those alternative pathways. You can't just be training for an exam. It's, yes, where do you need to be? What are the options there? Because as we know, the schooling system, the HSC structure, it's not catered towards everyone. It doesn't emphasise everyone's strengths. It does assess knowledge, But
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily assess their skills and how they would behave in that particular job environment. And bringing us back, that's where you need to find those guides and mentors that can support young people in finding those different pathways and what do I do, how do I get there?
Even students that get a high mark,
Yeah.
they can get a 97, 98, 99. And I go, oh, so what would you, if I don't get into law at Sydney, then I'll do medicine. But if I don't get into medicine, I'll do physio. If I don't get into physio, I'll do engineering.
It becomes a cycle. Yeah.
Okay, stop.
Yeah.
This is not good.
Yeah.
And that's where the stress begins. And back again into our conversation, talking it out with them, making sure in the conversation what comes out from them. Because at the end of the day, as a student, you will be the one going to university. You will be the one sitting the exams.
There's no hand-holding
Yeah,
there, is there?
no. Your dad, your parents, your teachers, your cousins or relatives down the road will not be doing it. It will be you. And this is our biggest goal, especially as teachers, in getting through the subject that we want to get through to them, and in the process, digging this information out. And I'm fortunate enough to have watched 30 years of this, watching their lives come unfold, watching them grow as people, and it's been quite rewarding.
It is, as an educator, to see a young person go onto their pathway, be happy with it, going, there's no greater reward, is there?
No,
You know?
absolutely not.
That's it. So I think,
right.
that's a good start to where we're at.
Absolutely. Thank you again for listening to our first podcast.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can... What's your social media?
I'm Maximum Education, so you can look out for me there,
I'm at the coaching college and Ultimate Defense Academy, which is headquarters for Ultimate Jiu-Jitsu. Thank you.
See you next time. Catch you.
Definitely.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye.